shallowly... Well, Denberg, it appears as though it is just you and me now.
So it would seem.
And how do you feel about that?
Words cannot describe how sorry I am for the part I played in all of this.
I am sure they cannot. Perhaps we should just carry on with the show.
Coming to you from a humble newsroom on the back lot of yesteryear, yesterday's news today. Equal parts exhaustively researched news show and retro radio drama. Jonathan T. McNally and his small team tell the stories of 2020 as newsmen from the 1920s, while struggling to keep their broadcast on the air. Tune in right here each and every Monday for the latest. As for now, welcome to the show.
Hello, listeners. I am Jonathan T. McNally, and welcome to yesterday's news, today. Our first story this week is... pardon a moment. Denberg, should we be waiting on Scarlett, or may we begin without her?
Actually, she will not be joining us this week.
Oh, how unfortunate.
Why, yes, she sent me a message stating that she had some business matters to attend to. It sounds as though the owners of some of her more lucrative ventures may be intending to jump the proverbial ship.
I wish her all the best with that.
Yes, of course, all the best.
Let us carry on, though, with our first story. Nearly $1 trillion for yearly military spending in the United States has become the source of a debate of accountability versus freedom of speech. The National Defense Authorization Act is often regarded as a must-pass piece of legislation. As a result, lawmakers have historically weaved partisan priorities into the bill. This Tuesday, President Trump declared that he would veto the NDAA if Section 230 was not nullified. Simplified, this law limits the liability for tech companies based on what their users post on their sites and services. This follows a trend, including an executive order earlier this year to police political speech on the World Wide Web. This is all based on the president's assertion that tech companies hold a bias that leads to the blocking of conservative content. This has included the flagged chirps of Mr. Trump regarding unproven voter fraud following his opponent's win of the presidential election. And on this issue, President-elect Joe Biden actually agrees, though his reasoning differs. Early in his campaign, Mr. Biden said Section 230 should be revoked immediately, saying rather that companies like Facebook were not moderating potentially harmful content and misinformation enough. Proponents of 230 instead feel that true freedom of speech comes from platforms being able to address content as they see fit. The Electronic Frontier Foundation calls the issue the most important law protecting internet speech. Mr. Trump's proposed veto is a bold move, and one that may hold weight based on the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's voting history. Again with the phones. Denberg, please.
Excuse the interruption. Jonathan,
What is it?
It would seem that Scarlett is listening in.
Of course she is.
She sent me a message to say that she approves of the first story, somewhat short and to the point.
Thank heavens for her approval.
What are your thoughts on going straight into local news?
I think that my thoughts on that matter don't matter much. And we are going to do it now regardless. So, what do you have for me this week, Denberg?
Well, here you are, sir.
Really? I have seen these stories countless times already. Is this really what you've chosen for us?
Not in so many words.
Scarlett?
Yes, but they are quite interesting, aren't they?
Usually, we try to cover items that are a bit more off the radar.
Scarlett thinks we may be able to use these topics to optimize our tags, keywords, and metadata for more hits in search engine results, increasing visibility and, as a result, viewership.
I would be lying if I said that I understood half of that, but I don't think any of that should dictate what news we cover. That being said, if that is what I must do, I suppose it is what it is. So, this week in...
Strangely true local news. We begin with strange sightings in the deserts of Utah and across the globe. Mysterious metal monoliths. Are they a sign from somewhere beyond the stars? A portent of things to come? Is this the final calamity of 2020? An interstellar mystery to end these strange days?
No, it is likely just modern art. Regardless, that makes these baffling metal slabs no less intriguing. The first was found by wildlife officials counting sheep by helicopter in the Utah desert. The Utah Department of Public Safety Aero Bureau posted images of the monolith to the information superhighway, where they spread far and with widespread speculation. Many pointed a hesitant finger toward extraterrestrial builders, with even the aforementioned Aero Bureau reminding folks that it is illegal to install structures or art without authorization on federally managed public lands, no matter what planet you're from. More grounded theories pointed to the pillars' similarities to the sculptures of late minimalist artist John McCracken. The mystery did not stop there, however, as just days after its discovery, the monolith seemingly vanished. Fortunately, photographers spotted 4 men breaking down the monolith and carting it away, one saying the object appeared to have a plywood center. Those who claimed to have removed the piece felt it was bound to lead to tourism and destruction of the natural wildlife and environment. This was not to be the last monolith, as in the days since, another very similar structure appeared halfway around the world in the Romanian city of Piatra Neamt, and a third atop Pine Mountain in Atascadero, California. The Romanian monolith was only around for 4 days before vanishing on Tuesday. Another story ostensibly torn from the pages of a science fiction novel, zombie minks. Around the world, minks were getting infected with COVID-19, and within the ferret-like creatures, the virus was mutating and spreading back to humans. These animals are often farmed for their valuable furs, with Denmark being home to over 200 mink farms. As outbreaks grew, the northern part of the nation was placed under lockdown, and in November, 17 million minks were killed. They were placed in hastily made and shallowly dug graves, and recently, the dead creatures began rising from the earth, propelled by the gas from their decomposing bodies. Denmark's government has been criticized for the drastic action, but mink farms in the U.S. are now facing similar decisions as outbreaks spread. Animal rights groups like PETA have criticized farms of the sort for their very existence, saying that these creatures would eventually be killed anyhow, and that they are often a breeding ground for such disease. A conservative lawmaker in Hungary is also facing controversy for breaking the national coronavirus lockdown. Mr. Joseph Thacher, a senior member of the European Parliament from Hungary's ruling Fidesz party, was a co-author of the company's oft-derided 2010 constitution that defined marriage as being solely between a man and a woman. He's also shown strong anti-gay viewpoints and opposition to worldwide rights for women and LGBTQ people. The soiree that he attended just a few meters from the Brussels Central Police Station was initially investigated for breaking evening curfew, exceeding the cap on indoor gatherings of 4 people or less, and noise complaints. When police arrived, there were reports of narcotics, and national media has referred to the carousal conservative Mr. Thacher sojourned as a male-only sex party. He resigned from his position on December 2nd. Which should bring us to our sponsor for the week. Do we have something, Denberg?
Yes, well...
What is it?
It's just that I had written this advertisement a few weeks back, and I was going to perform it with someone who is no longer here.
Ah, that poses a problem, doesn't it, Denberg?
Jonathan, I just...
If it helps, I can read that part of the script.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here goes. Oh, wow, would you look at that? I just got all of my Christmas shopping done.
Good for you, Denberg. I am still having some trouble finding some of the items on my list.
Oh, really? What would you be looking for?
Well, some cheery retro wall art. A pair of shorts covered in vibrant anthropomorphic fruit salad. A small planter designed like a jolly female clown. And perhaps even a custom-designed rug like the one in this very newsroom.
Oh, well, I happen to know just the place to find that strangely specific collection of items.
Oh, do you?
I do. It's called Day Off Ltd., and they happen to have all that and more at their store, which resides on the Information Superhighway. It's an incredible spread of clothing with fun designs and quirky art for the home with retro and psychedelic aesthetics. If you can't find what you're looking for, they even take custom commissions. What more could you need?
And where can I find these fine folks?
Simply enter dayoff.ltd into your internet browser or find the link in the description for this broadcast.
What would I ever do without you, Denberg? You truly are the most integral member of yesterday's news today.
Oh, you don't have to say that, Arch. I mean, Jonathan, you really don't have to say that.
It's in the script.
At the time, I just wanted to hear someone say it.
Well, you are definitely a vital part of the show now, seeing as there is no one left.
Jonathan,
Denberg, I understand why you decided to back Scarlett. You don't need to explain yourself. What's done is done. I just wish you'd had the courage to actually discuss your problems with me first.
So do I, Jonathan. So do I.
For now, I think it's best that we just move on.
You are probably right.
I feel that brings us to our main story, then.
That was Scarlett. She was saying it had better not be coronavirus.
It is coronavirus. Yes?
She simply sent several emojis.
Emojis.
Emoticons, those pictures, sometimes with smiling faces that can be sent in messages.
Ah.
She sent an image of a microphone, followed by a knife, a face with X's for eyes, and then 13 skulls.
Very good. Would you mind silencing your phone now?
I wouldn't mind at all, Mr. McNally.
I'm sure you are still listening, so let me be clear. I do not care that folks are sick of hearing of coronavirus. I do not care that we have covered it countless times before. Frankly, I do not care that it may doom this show to an untimely end. This is possibly the biggest event of our generation, a time that will define us. We must tell of it. We must keep people informed so that they can make smart decisions to keep themselves, their loved ones, and their communities safe and healthy. We must report the news. I feel the end may be nigh for yesterday's news today, but if this is to be our end, I will spend it trying to tell the unbiased facts to any who will listen, to reveal the truth to all who need to know it. Now, dear audience, I warn you that this is a constantly evolving topic that has taken every effort of our team to stay ahead of. We shall do our best to cover everything you need to know about what we know concerning the virus, the potential for vaccines, and precautions recommended by experts. But to be clear, we are watching the scientific process on a global scale right before our eyes. And with that, there will be trials and occasionally errors. The important thing is to continue following the news, no matter how exhausting it may be, and trust that the scientists and the doctors are doing their utmost to dismantle this disease's hold on our society. It appears as though the choice by many to not heed the advice of such professionals has contributed to the massive surge we are experiencing today. This week has seen record highs. Friday saw 217,664 new cases of COVID-19 and 2,879 deaths in the United States, breaking a record set just the day before. These statistics are dizzying, and it can be difficult to reconcile that these numbers have real human lives attached to them. Recent cases have also seen a troubling 28% increase amongst children, with the young now accounting for 12% of total cases. This is all following widespread gatherings across the nation for the Thanksgiving holiday, exemplified by a report by the Transportation Security Administration of 9.5 million passengers on flights. Dr. Anthony Fauci warns that this is only the beginning, and we'll see more of a surge as we get to 2 to 3 weeks past the Thanksgiving holiday. With this staggering rise, Christmas travelers are unlikely to be deterred. Airline analysts predict that December's holiday flights will exceed those seen for Thanksgiving. Atop all of this, another concern is increased hospitalizations. That Friday peak also included 100,667 patients treated for the virus, with 19,442 on ventilators. The White House Coronavirus Task Force warns that the post-Thanksgiving surge will compromise COVID patient care, as well as medical care overall. And Dr. Robert Redfield, the director for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, said Wednesday that he believes the coming months will, quote, be the most difficult in the public health history of this nation, largely because of the stress that's going to be put on our healthcare system. He further predicts close to 450,000 American deaths from the virus by February. While other countries have implemented sweeping and continuous assistance for their citizens, the United States continues to stagnate on any new stimulus plan. Most of the provisions from the CARES Act in March have long since expired, and by the end of December, the final safeguards will run out, leaving tens of millions of Americans facing hunger, debt, job loss, and eviction. Every other day, there are reports from Washington that would give hope of pushing stimulus talks forward, but the next day often follows with another impasse between politicians. This week ended positively with the sounds of bipartisan support for what lawmakers hope to have in writing by early next week. The proposal reportedly includes $300 a week in federal unemployment benefits, a continued hold on federal student loan payments, an eviction moratorium, more money to the Paycheck Protection Program, and $16 billion to vaccine development and distribution, as well as COVID testing and tracing. There is continued debate on the limits that employers can be held liable for COVID-related issues, and most reporting indicates that stimulus checks are unlikely in this next bit of legislation. In addition to these negotiations, many Americans are holding out hope for a vaccine. There are likely candidates from both Moderna and Pfizer Incorporated. The latter, developed with BioNTech, was approved in the United Kingdom on Wednesday. Pfizer has applied to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for approval, with a meeting of their vaccine advisors scheduled for December 10th. Moderna is expected to do the same within the next week or so. The CDC says that healthcare providers and those who live in long-term care congregate facilities must be prioritized, as these residents and staff have been disproportionately impacted by coronavirus. Some projections indicate 40 million vaccine doses would be available by the end of December, with Dr. Larry Corey of the University of Washington stating that 50 million may be supplied in January and 60 million in both February and March. But these projections are based on the near immediate approval of the vaccines. The head of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, Dr. Peter Marks, warned patient advocacy groups that this process could take a few days to a few weeks. It is also crucial to note that while the projected number of vaccine doses is impressive, it's not enough to quickly cover 21 million healthcare personnel, 100 million adults with high-risk medical conditions, and 53 million others over the age of 65. Meanwhile, the accelerated process has led to questions around the vaccines. It is unknown how long immunity protection will last, and is as yet unclear whether the vaccine will decrease transmission. Dr. Sandra Freihofer of the American Medical Association made further warnings to public health officials and drug makers that they need to properly warn people that the coronavirus vaccine may have unpleasant side effects. Participants in both Moderna and Pfizer's vaccine trials reported that they experienced high fever, body aches, bad headaches, and exhaustion. These are all similar to symptoms associated with mild cases of COVID-19. These same participants said that while the side effects were uncomfortable and sometimes intense, they went away often within a day, and were far better than dealing with a full-blown coronavirus infection. Doctors have called these natural immune responses, and urge folks to get vaccinated as doses become available. To add credence to this sentiment, former Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton have all vowed to take the COVID-19 vaccine on camera, to further bolster the public's confidence in its safety. Presidential advisor and first daughter Ivanka Trump said that she is also willing to publicly receive the vaccine once it's approved by the FDA. But this may not be enough to allay the misgivings of the skeptical. A recent article in the Wall Street Journal depicted a problem for many healthcare workers, with many in their communities feeling COVID-19 isn't as bad as experts say, and some believing it's not real at all. A common mantra among such naysayers is that coronavirus is just like the flu. The data proves otherwise, as reported by Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. Since this time last year, COVID-19 has killed more people in the United States than the flu has in the last 5 years. More people are susceptible to the virus, and the symptoms can be far worse. Many survivors report long-term effects including weakness, shortness of breath, trouble focusing, and kidney and heart problems. Coronavirus is not just the flu. It is a worldwide pandemic that has claimed over 1.5 million lives and is likely to be remembered as one of the greatest crises of our time. To sum up this deluge of data and information, there is some degree of hope on the horizon, but it will get worse before it gets better. As the world awaits the aforementioned vaccines, all we can do is what we have been told to do from the beginning. Some areas are already considering lockdowns, with California Governor Gavin Newsom announcing stay-at-home orders likely in several regions in the next few days. Beyond this, it is as countless health professionals have said, and summed up by ADM Brett Giroir, Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do the right thing. Universal mask wearing, avoiding indoor space, crowded bars, restaurants, etc., etc. And finally, the man who will soon be President-elect Biden's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, urges Americans to reconsider holiday activities. He says, quote, "I know how difficult that is. We all have a strong degree of empathy about wanting to be with your family, wanting to have a large Christmas dinner with family and friends. Right now, that just should not be done. To the best of our capabilities, we should avoid travel and avoid congregate settings." End quote. He goes on to say that the damage from Thanksgiving has already been done. But as we continue to feel the effects, we do have the ability to limit how bad things get as the holidays continue. And so ends our show. Thank you, as always, for listening. Denberg, I thought you silenced that thing.
I'm sorry, sir. I thought you were done.
I am. Is it Scarlett?
It is, and it's a lot.
What's she saying?
This is so boring. Why is he still going? Why won't you all just listen? Make it stop. Then mostly just obscenities that I really shouldn't say, and a few I've never heard before. But that last thing, that was a voicemail. I just missed the call.
We may as well hear it.
One moment here, and...
Congratulations, gentlemen. You did it. It's over. Yesterday's news today is finished.
This program was written and performed by Roger J. Thacher and Dennis Shanaberg, with Caitlin Wolfe as Scarlett Murdoch, and additional research by Amy Lee Nieves. You are encouraged to obtain a subscription to this broadcast with the simple selection of a button below. Furthermore, you can indicate your appreciation by giving us the old thumbs up. Did you have any thoughts about any of our stories? Please comment them below. Or to read those of our newsmen, tune your Twitter to @RadioYNT. And as always, be sure to tune in next week to hear tomorrow's news of yesterday. Then.